While some of the writers took the massacres and violent condition during the refugee migration, others took the aftermath of partition as their topic. Khushwant Singh is one of such artists who took the massacres during the refugee migration. His novel Train to Pakistan occupies an unique place in the tradition of partition literature. The novel is divided into four sections. The first section of the novel, titled as Dacoity. First of all, let us take a look at the major characters. Jagat Singh or Jagga, a Sikh peasant who is imprisoned with the false charge of a murder, and he has a relationship with a Muslim girl named Noora. Noora, the daughter of a Muslim weaver, Imam Baksh. She is Jagga's beloved. Iqbal Singh, a political worker who came to the village Monomajra and is arrested without any reason. Hukum Chand, the newly came magistrate and deputy commissioner in Monomajra. He is in his 50s, had a wife and children once, but they died. He holds the authority over the local police officers. Sub-Inspector, officer in charge in Monomajra, he works as Hukum Chand orders. Bhaimeet Singh, priest of the Sikh temple, he gave Iqbal a place in the temple to live. Lala Ramlal, a wealthy Hindu moneylender in Monomajra. His family is the only Hindu family in the village. Initially, he was murdered by Malli and his gang. Mother of Jagga, Imam Baksh. He is the father of Noora, Jagga's beloved. Banta Singh, the Lambardar or headman of the village Monomajra, who collects revenue from local villagers. Malli, a dacoit who with his gang killed the moneylender Lala Ramlal. Hasina, a Muslim girl of 16 or 17, she works as a prostitute for Hukum Chand. Boy leader, he comes eventually and encourages Monomajra people to attack a train full of Muslims going to Pakistan. However, these are the major characters. There are also many characters about whom we shall know while we discuss the summary. The novel starts with a description of the contemporary season in 1947. The narrator says, the summer of 1947 was unlike the other Indian summers. Then there comes the description of the harsh weather. People were saying that God was punishing them. Now comes the idea of India as a Hindu land and Pakistan as a Muslim land. Muslims were blaming Hindus that they were responsible for the violence and killing, and the Hindus were blaming the Muslims. In the East and West Bengal, Muslims massacred Hindus, and in Bihar, Hindus massacred Muslims. By the summer of 1947, after the announcement of the creation of Pakistan, 10 million people were in flight. And by the end of the monsoon, almost 1 million of them were dead. Now comes the description of the village Monomajra, which is a tiny place in India. It is a fictional village, by the way. The village has only 3 brick buildings. One is of the moneylender Lala Ramlal, and the other 2 are the Sikh temple and the mosque. Only 70 families dwell in Monomajra village, which means the village is very small, and Lala Ramlal's family is the only Hindu family in the village. There is a local deity named Deo, to which people of both Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs and pseudo-Christians worship secretly. The village Monomajra is by the bank of the river Sutlej, which exists in reality. This is the largest river in Punjab. There is a small railway station in Monomajra village. No express train stops at Monomajra. Only 2 passenger trains, Delhi to Lahore in the morning and Lahore to Delhi in the evening. But goods train stops daily. The trains play a vital role in the life of the people of Monomajra. Before the day break, when a mail train rushes to Lahore, with the whistle of the train, Mono Majra people comes awake. Mullah goes to the mosque and priest to the Sikh temple.
When at 10:30 the passenger train from Delhi to Lahore comes, Mono Majra people have settled down to their daily routine. And when the evening passenger train from Lahore to Delhi comes, they gets to work again. And by the evening, when the goods train comes, people say, "There is the goods train." It is like the goods train is their signal of saying goodnight to each other. Until the summer of 1947, this has always been the situation. But then, one night, 5 armed dacoits come to Mono Majra. They carried bangles for Jagga or Jagut Singh, who is a local Sikh peasant. They start commenting on Jagga and the Muslim weaver's daughter Noora in a bad tongue. Then the goods train arrives. With the arrival of the goods train, the dacoits went to the moneylender Lala Ramlal's house. They started hammering on the door of Lala, abusing him to open the door. A woman answered that Lala was not at home. Then they banged the door open, put a gun on the face of Lala's 7-year-old son. The boy, who is trembling, told his father is upstairs. Then those Dakus went upstairs, found Lala, and killed him. The women were shouting, "Daku, Daku," but nobody came. After looting all of those things in Lala Ramlal's house, they walked past the house of Jagga, abusing him. But Jagga was not at home then, and they started abusing Noora by making some lecherous kissing sounds. Actually, Jagga had gone to visit Noora secretly, besides his mother's objections. Jagga and Noora met near the stream in the dark of the night. There, they had sex on the dry sand. By the way, there is a vast description of their sex scene here. I'm not going into that matter. When they were lying on the sand, the dacoits walked past them. Jagga recognized one of them as his name was Malli, a dacoit from another nearby village. After some time, Jagga and Noora walked back to Mono Majra. When he reached his home, Jagga saw that several villagers were there in his courtyard. As villagers always suspect him for everything, this time they have suspected him as the murderer of Lala Ramlal. On the morning before dacoity, Magistrate and Deputy Commissioner Hukumchand arrived to Mono Majra. Hukumchand asked local sub-inspector about the condition of Mono Majra. The sub-inspector told him that some Sikhs and Hindus from Pakistan have come and some Muslims have gone to Pakistan. While conversing, Hukumchand told the sub-inspector how the Sikhs attacked a Muslim refugee train and killed everyone, a train full of corpses. They wrote on the engine of the train, "Gift to Pakistan." Sub-inspector tried to tell him that Hindus are not like that. They do not participate in stabbing games. They are like Gandhi disciples. Hukumchand advised the sub-inspector that his principle should be seeing everything and say nothing. Then he said that all the Hindus and Sikhs who migrated from Pakistan came in bare-handed. They had to leave their possessions there. But on the other hand, all the Muslims who migrated from India to Pakistan took all their possessions. There was no restriction from India. Hukumchand and the sub-inspector started drinking beer. Hukumchand then again asked about the situation in Mono Majra. Sub-inspector replied that the people of Mono Majra are very disconnected from the outer world. Even it is like they do not know the British has already left the country. They are also unaware of the name of Jinnah as well as the partition. Then he says there is only one bad character in Mono Majra village, whose name is Jagat Singh or Jagga, son of a dacoit Alam Singh, who was hanged 2 years ago. Jagga is a very tall man like his father. He must be 6 feet 4. Then he mentions the name of the
girl Noora, the Muslim weaver's daughter, the girl who keeps Jagga in the village, and the relationship between Jagga and Noora. After some times, the sub-inspector took his leave by saying that he has arranged a pleasing event for Hukumchand in the evening. Before the evening, two men and two women came with their instruments. Among the women, one was old and another one was barely 16 or 17. They started their program before the magistrate Hukumchand. While drinking the whiskey, Hukumchand felt that the girl is rather his own daughter's age. Besides thinking that he could not restrain himself from exploiting that unexploited girl, he pulled the girl onto his lap and started forcing her to drink whiskey. When the girl hesitated, the old woman ordered the girl by saying, "The government is talking to you." Here Hukumchand is referred as government for his higher authoritative position. At night, Hukumchand sent all of them home except that girl, and at the darkness of the night, Hukumchand made love with the girl. The morning after the dacoity, the railway station was more crowded than usual. That morning, a young man stepped down from the train. He asked the station master if there is any place in Monomajra to live. Station master replied that there is no hotels. There is only the Sikh temple. He thanked the station master, which was very unusual behavior from the locals, and then he went to the Sikh temple, met the old priest Bhaimit Singh. Bhaimit Singh asked his name, to which the boy replied, Iqbal. Without listening the surname, Meet Singh considered him as Iqbal Singh, a Sikh. But he could be Iqbal Muhammad, a Muslim, or Iqbal Chand, a Hindu. Meet Singh told him that he can leave here without bringing in any cigarettes or tobacco. We come to know that the boy is from Jhelum district, which is now in Pakistan. Then Iqbal talks about morality, which he thinks is a matter of money, and the poor people cannot afford morality. So, in substitution, they have religion. A party of policemen came over in the same train the boy came in. The policemen came to the moneylender Lala Ramlal's house. The dacoits murdered Lala and took at least 5,000 cash and gold ornaments from the women. In the afternoon, Iqbal tried to take a nap as he was unable to sleep in the train. He remembered how the compartments meant for 50 people had almost 200 people who are holding onto the door handles. In the compartment, when Iqbal started reading an English book, people called him Babu. At that time, Bhaimit Singh, the priest of the Sikh temple, came saying that it is Kalyug, the dark age, where neighbors are killing the neighbors. He mentioned Jagat Singh or Jagga as the dacoit and the killer of Lala Ramlal. The police have found some of the bangles in the courtyard of Jagga, so they accused him as the dacoit. But as we know, the bangles were thrown by those 5 dacoits to the courtyard of Jagga that night. Iqbal always talks about morality. He says that anyone never bothered to find why people rob and kill. Criminals are not born, they are made by hunger, want, and injustice. Jagga has fled from the village. The magistrate Hukumchand ordered to keep a look out for Jagga. When Iqbal asked who is the magistrate, Bhaimit Singh told him about Hukumchand and how he became the deputy magistrate from a foot constable by pleasing the sahibs. Iqbal stepped out of the temple to visit the village. He saw how the trains come and go with people in the roofs and buffers of the train. In the evening, he came back to the temple and tried to sleep. But then again came Bhaimit Singh and some other people with him. Among them was a Muslim guy who began to ask Iqbal questions like what is happening in the world, what is all about partition, what is Hindustan and Pakistan, why the English left. Iqbal didn't know
how to answer these simple questions. The Muslim man said, "Freedom is for the educated people who fought for it. We were slaves to the English. Now we will be the slaves of educated Indians or the Pakistanis. Education is everything." For instance, he says, "Look at Gandhi, who reads Quran along with his Vedas and Shastras, and he is respected by even the British." After the conversation, those people left Iqbal. Iqbal gazed at the stars, thinking, what could he do to stop all these killings? What could he do in this enormous land where Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Congressites, Leaguers, Communists are all in killing? He is a social worker. His party boss had sent him to Monomajra. With all this revolving in his mind, Iqbal slept. Early in the next morning, Iqbal got arrested. Two constables came and examined Iqbal's luggage. They showed a warrant for his arrest. Iqbal got up and, without having anything understood, he told those policemen that they have no rights to arrest him like that. The constables, with respect, called Iqbal Babu Sahib and told that they are just doing their duties, and Iqbal has to settle this matter with the magistrate, not with them. The constables were not willing to put handcuffs on Iqbal. They just advised to cover the face so that no one could recognize him. But Iqbal pounced on the matter, saying he is not a dacoit, nor a thief, he is a political leader. He will not cover up his face. Iqbal kept his luggages in the care of Baimeet Singh and went with the constables. At that very time, a group of 10 constables were sent to arrest Jagga. After spending 2 nights in the jungle, at last he is home. When he was sleeping, the police came and put handcuffs in his hands. The constables found Jagga's spear, which they thought as the very weapon which killed Lala Ramlal. Police took Jagga with them without hearing a single word from his mother. In the meantime, when the head constable sarcastically said, "Who leaves Jagga Bangles?" Jagga lost his temper and gave a menacing punch to the head constable. And immediately the constables started beating Jagga with their boots. In this way, they took Jagga with them. In the mid of the journey, Jagga's party met Iqbal's. They were both to be taken to the magistrate. On the way, Jagga asked Iqbal where he is from, and Iqbal replied he is not a villager. He is from Delhi. He was sent to organize the peasants, but unfortunately the government doesn't like people to be organized. The sub-inspector scolded the head constable for having arrested Iqbal without any suspicion. The magistrate asked the name of Iqbal. Sub-inspector replied that his name is Iqbal. Hukumchand lost his control and asked, "Is there not any surname, or does he not have a father?" At that time, it was unknown to everyone. Then the sub-inspector made a plan. He called in Iqbal and ordered to take his pajamas off. Though Iqbal felt humiliated, but he had no other choice. After examining Iqbal, sub-inspector gave a sinister smile. Iqbal told them that he is a member of the People's Party of India. But now the sub-inspector, after examining his body, sarcastically said, "Are you sure you are a member of the People's Party of India, or is it the Muslim League?" The sub-inspector told Hukumchand that Iqbal is a member of the Muslim League and lodged a complaint by the name of Muhammad Iqbal. After all that, Iqbal and Jagga were being sent to the Chandannagar police station in a Tonga. On the way, Jagga started many conversations. One of them was, "The Muslims are not to be trusted." The Tonga driver Vola was asked various questions by Jagga. At a time, he sarcastically told Bhola that he should get a wife now, as women are being sold nowadays in a cheap rate. Bhola also answered Jagga that if he can get a Muslim girl without paying for her, then why should he spend money on wives? But this was his mistake.
Jagga was at his rage. He cannot tolerate anything related to Nora. In answering that mockery, he threatened Bhola that if those handcuffs were not on him, he would have broken all the bones in the body of Bhola. In the gateway of the jail, "Welcome" was written, and on the wall many quotations like "Honesty is the best policy," "Bribery is a crime." Seeing Jagga once again in the jail, the constables mocked by saying that maybe it is Jagga's father-in-law's house, so he comes again and again. Jagga also replied that it is true that he has seduced so many policemen's daughters. Two cells were there in the police station. One was for Jagga, which was without any bedsteads, and other one for Iqbal, which was with bedsteads and some other needful objects. Inside the jail, the sub-inspector came to meet Iqbal first. The sub-inspector has already taken Iqbal as a Muslim, but Iqbal was unwilling to accept it. The sub-inspector was constantly taunting Iqbal that he should go to Pakistan where he properly belongs. Iqbal tried to threaten the sub-inspector by saying that he will move a habeas corpus petition. Now, habeas corpus petition means a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before the judge. But the sub-inspector didn't get threatened. Rather, he laughed very loudly. Then he went to Jagga's cell and asked him to tell the names of the dacoits. But Jagga was not willing to answer it. He simply said he is innocent this time. Sub-inspector threatened him by mentioning the physical pain that they once gave him. Jagga was shaken by that memory. Sub-inspector gave him 2 days to tell the names of the dacoits. Otherwise, he will beat him to a tail of a ram. Early in September, life became less punctual in Monomajra. Trains became less punctual than ever before. Everyone, knowingly or unknowingly, started going against the time. One day, a unit of 6 soldiers arrived and put their tents up near the railway station. Armed sentries began to patrol the platform, and no villagers were allowed to come near the station. One morning, a train came from Pakistan and halted at Monomajra station. There was something uneasy about the train. As soon as the train stopped at Monomajra station, the guard emerged and went to the station master's office. Then the two went to talk to the officer in charge. Suddenly, every villager was prohibited from entering the station. Even they were not even allowed to loiter near the station. An hour later, the sub-inspector came with 50 armed policemen, and then came Hukum Chand, the magistrate. It was as if the train was a ghost train. The influential men in the village like Lambadar Banta Singh, father of Noora, Imam Baksh, were also unaware of the matter. People climbed to their roofs to have a glance of what is happening at the station. Everybody gathered in the Sikh temple seeking to hear some news about the train. Sometimes they thought it might be government treasures or arms, so the policemen are patrolling it. Suddenly, a policeman came to the Sikh temple and took Lambardar Banta Singh aside and whispered something. And all of a sudden, everyone was ordered to bring all the wood and kerosene oil to the motor trucks near the station. They will get paid for that. The sun set down, turning the climate into bluish gray, but after a while it became orange. The orange turned into copper and then into luminous russet. Red flames leaped into the black sky, and with the atmosphere came a faint, acrid smell of burning flesh. Now the villagers understood. It was implicit that the train brought a full of corpses, and the officers took the kerosene oil and wood from the villagers to burn their bodies. Hukumchand had been out since the morning. The sight of so many dead bodies had produced a cold numbness into him. He saw how corpses of men, women, and children
had been dragged out as if they were beddings. There were bodies crammed against the far end wall of the compartment, looking in terror at the empty windows. There were lavatories jammed with the corpses that brought vomit to Hukumchand's mouth. A train full of dead bodies was too much even for Hukumchand. He came home in the evening and was out of his sense. At night he was afraid to sleep alone, so he slept with the young prostitute. Hukumchand snuggled against her like a child and fell asleep immediately. In the morning a dull pain rocked his forehead. It was raining then. The sub-inspector came. He brought the news that there is only a big heap of ashes and bones left near the station. Hukumchand wailed, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. On hearing that, there were at least 1,500 men and women in the train who were killed brutally. Then Hukumchand asked about Lala Ramlal's murder case. Sub-inspector replied that Jagga had given the names of those dacoits at last. It was Malli and his gang. Malli, as well as his dacoit gang, was from Kapura village. Some constables are sent to arrest them. Hukumchand listened to all this with an unconscious mind. He advised to let Malli and his gang go off without making any entry anywhere and keep an eye on them. And he ordered not to release Jagga or Iqbal because they can be needful in the future. Even in that rainy weather, the sub-inspector went out. Meanwhile, that young girl woke up and she wanted to go home. Hukumchand cleared his throat and asked her name. The girl replied, Hasina, Hasina Begum. Her name is Hasina Begum. In the course of talking, religion came up, and the girl said, yes, she is a Muslim, but she is a singer, and singers are not Hindu or Muslim in that way. Everyone comes to hear her song. For a week, Iqbal was left alone in his cell. One morning, a band of 5 men were brought to the police station in handcuffs. As soon as Jagga saw them, he got very angry and started abusing them. Those 5 men were the actual murderers of Lala Ramlal, and they were put into the cell of Jagga, and Jagga was shifted to Iqbal's cell with him. As soon as Jagga went inside, he greeted Iqbal and went on saying that, Babuji, I will serve you, if you teach me some English. From Jagga, Iqbal heard that those 5 are the murderers of Lala Ramlal. After some time, Jagga asked a stupid question. He asked Iqbal that he has long been to foreign, hence he must have slept with so much memsahibs. Irritated Iqbal replied, yes, many. Side by side, he also understood that it was not possible to keep Indians off the subject of sex for a long time. Jagga asked Iqbal that he must have passed class 10th. Iqbal replied that he has passed 16th, and their conversation went on in this way. Arriving at the police station, the sub-inspector ordered to let go Malli and his men. When Malli and his men were leaving, they tried to abuse Jagga by mentioning the name of Noora. And Malli tried to mock Jagga by greeting him, but it was his mistake. It was at that moment Jagga shot his hands through the bars and gripped Malli by his hair. Jagga crushed Malli's head against the bars several times. Malli's head was studded with blood. Policemen began to shout, and Malli began to wail. At the end, Jagga spat on Malli's face and pushed him away with more abuse. When Iqbal tried to stop Jagga, for the first time, Jagga became rude to Iqbal. Then Iqbal appealed that he should be shifted to the other cell, but the sub-inspector mockingly replied that yes, they will shift him to the other cell with some more comfortable things. An electric fan maybe?